Did you know that in some parts of America, it's completely legal to marry your cousin, but illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket? Yeah, I'm serious. While everyone's arguing about the big laws, there are 50 absolutely insane laws still on the books that'll make you question everything. And number 37? That one might actually affect you. Look, America's legal system is weird, like really weird. We've got laws from the 1800s that nobody bothered to remove, combined with modern regulations that make zero sense. And today, we're going through 50 of the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping, and straight-up bizarre laws that are still completely legal in the United States right now. Some of these will make you laugh, some will make you angry, and some will just make you go, wait, what? So let's jump right in. Here's the thing, most people think they know the law. You know, don't steal stuff, don't hurt people, pay your taxes, basic stuff. But scattered across America's 50 states are hundreds of laws that are so strange, so outdated, and so completely bonkers that you'd never believe they're real. And the craziest part, people can actually get in trouble for breaking these laws. So whether you're planning a road trip across America or just want to feel better about your own life choices, you need to know about these legal loopholes and weird regulations that somehow still exist. Let's start with marriage laws, because oh boy, this is where things get wild right away. In many states across America, it's completely legal to marry your first cousin. We're not talking about distant relatives here, your actual first cousin. Now, before you freak out, there are usually some conditions. Some states require genetic counseling first. Others only allow it if both people are over a certain age and can't have kids. But still, over half of the US states allow some form of cousin marriage. California, New York, Florida, they all allow it. Meanwhile, these same states will throw a fit about who can use which bathroom. Priorities, right? And speaking of marriage, in Massachusetts, it's legal for a woman to be topless in public as long as it's not for commercial purposes. That's right. Educational? Fine. Artistic? Go for it. Protesting for equal rights? Absolutely. But the second money changes hands, suddenly it's illegal. The logic here is fascinating because it means the human body is perfectly acceptable until capitalism gets involved. You can sunbathe topless at the beach, but you can't monetize it. America really said, free the chest, but not for profit. Here's another marriage one that'll blow your mind. In Mississippi, there's no minimum age for marriage with parental and judicial consent. None. Now, judges usually won't approve marriages for very young children, but technically the law doesn't specify a minimum age. But you have to be 21 to buy a beer. So theoretically, you could be married with kids before you can legally drink at your own anniversary dinner. Now let's talk about animals, because this is where American law really shows its personality. In Florida, it's legal to own a tiger, like a full-grown tiger. You need a permit, sure, but it's completely doable. The same state that regulates how you can modify your car has said, yeah, go ahead and keep a 400-pound apex predator in your backyard. There are more tigers in captivity in America than there are in the wild worldwide. Let that sink in. People are out here living with animals that could literally eat them, and the government is like, just fill out this form first. But here's where it gets even stranger. In Alabama, it's legal to own a bear. A bear? You know those animals that can literally rip car doors off? Totally fine. Want to adopt a rescued pit bull? That might be illegal depending on your county. But a grizzly bear? Sure. Why not? The same state that bans certain dog breeds because they're dangerous will let you keep an animal that can weigh 600 pounds and has claws the size of your fingers. In Nevada, you can legally operate a brothel in certain counties. Prostitution is fully regulated, taxed, and legal. Workers get health checks, the buildings are inspected, and it's treated like any other business. But in that same state, if you're caught with certain amounts of other regulated substances, you're going to jail. So apparently selling intimacy is fine, but other personal choices aren't. The consistency is just beautiful. And get this. In Nevada's legal brothels, workers are classified as independent contractors. They pay taxes. They follow safety regulations. It's a legitimate industry with unions and everything. But in the neighboring state of Utah, even talking about starting such a business could land you in serious legal trouble. These states are separated by a few hours of driving, but their laws exist in completely different universes. Let's move on to guns, because this is America after all. In Vermont, you can legally carry a concealed firearm without any permit, background check, or training whatsoever. Just buy a gun and put it in your jacket. Done. No questions asked. A 16-year-old can't buy a lottery ticket or a beer, but in some states they can own a rifle. You need more paperwork to adopt a dog from a shelter than to buy certain firearms in some places. The background check for a puppy is more thorough than the one for a weapon. And in Texas, it's legal to carry a sword in public, not a small knife, a full-length sword. like you're about to duel someone in the town square. As long as it's not concealed, you're good to go. Imagine seeing someone at Starbucks with a broadsword strapped to their back, ordering a pumpkin spice latte. That's legal. But switchblades? Those are heavily regulated in many places. A sword that's visible? Fine. A small knife that opens quickly. Dangerous weapon. In Arizona, you can legally own a fully automatic weapon manufactured before 1986. Machine guns. With the right federal permits and tax stamps, you can own weapons that fire hundreds of rounds per minute. These aren't cheap, they cost tens of thousands of dollars, but it's completely legal. The same state where you need a license to do people's nails lets you own military-grade hardware. Now let's talk about driving laws, which are somehow even more confusing. In Montana, it's legal to have an open container of alcohol in your car, as long as you're not the one drinking it. So your passenger can crack open a beer while you're driving down the highway, and that's totally fine according to state law. Meanwhile, in other states, having an empty beer can in your back seat can get you in trouble. The can doesn't even need to have alcohol in it. Just the presence of it can cause issues. In South Dakota, you can legally ride a horse on the highway. Not a joke. Horses are considered vehicles under certain circumstances, which means you can saddle up and take your horse onto roads with cars going 70 miles per hour. What could possibly go wrong? You're out here trying to merge onto the interstate on a horse named Thunder, while soccer moms in minivans are texting and not paying attention. Here's another driving one. In some states, it's legal to drive without car insurance if you can prove financial responsibility another way. You can post a bond or deposit cash with the state instead of buying insurance. So you could theoretically be driving around with no insurance company backing you up, just your word that you have money somewhere. But try to drive without your license physically on you and you're getting a ticket. In several states, it's legal to have incredibly dark window tint on your car. Like, you can barely see inside the vehicle dark. But in other states, even slightly tinted windows can get you pulled over. And the percentages are all different. What's legal in one state will get you a ticket in another. So you could drive across state lines and suddenly be breaking the law without changing anything about your car. Here's a fun one. In several states, it's completely legal to collect rainwater. Now, you might be thinking, why wouldn't that be legal? Well, in some states, it used to be illegal or heavily regulated because of old water rights laws. The logic was that rain belongs to someone downstream because of water tables and historic rights. But in places where it's legal, you can set up massive collection systems. However, in those same states, you might not be able to disconnect from the power grid even if you have solar panels, because the government really wants to make sure you're dependent on public utilities, apparently. Let's talk about food and drink laws, which are absolutely ridiculous. In Wisconsin, it's legal for minors to drink alcohol in bars and restaurants if they're with their parents. Seriously. A parent can order their kid a beer and it's completely within the law. The same state that'll arrest you for smoking a plant says, yeah, give that 12-year-old some whiskey as long as mom approves. The bartender can legally serve alcohol to a child as long as the parent is present and consenting. But that same kid can't buy a lottery ticket until they're 18. In several states, it's legal to brew your own moonshine at home for personal consumption. The stuff that was illegal during Prohibition and sparked countless crime dramas. Totally fine now, as long as you're not selling it. You can make rocket fuel in your garage, but try to sell homemade cookies without the proper permits and licenses, and you'll get shut down faster than you can say, health code violation. And speaking of homemade alcohol, in Texas you can brew up to 200 gallons of beer per year for personal use if you're the only adult in the household. 200 gallons, that's over 2,000 bottles of beer. But if you want to sell even one bottle, suddenly you need federal licenses, state permits, inspections, and all sorts of regulations. Making it? Fine. Selling it? Criminal. In some states, it's legal to hunt and eat roadkill. If you hit a deer with your car, you can legally take it home, butcher it, and have venison for dinner. There are actual procedures for this. You have to report it, tag it, and follow specific rules. But yes, you can eat animals you've killed with your Honda Civic. Some states even have official roadkill salvage permits. You call the authorities, they give you a tag, and you can take that dead animal home. But try to hunt that same deer out of season, and you're breaking major wildlife laws. In New York, it's legal to sell insects for human consumption. Crickets, mealworms, whatever, they're considered a sustainable protein source, and you can buy them at specialty stores or even some regular grocery stores. But raw milk? That's heavily regulated or outright banned in many places. You can eat bugs with minimal oversight, but unpasteurized milk from a cow is considered too dangerous. Now let's get into property and personal freedom laws. In New Hampshire, it's legal to not wear a seatbelt if you're over 18. Live free or die is their motto, and apparently they mean it literally. You can risk becoming a human projectile in a car accident because freedom, but try to build a shed on your own property without permits and see what happens. The state says you're mature enough to decide whether to protect yourself in a crash, but not mature enough to build a 10 by 10 structure without government approval. In Alaska, it's legal to be completely off-grid. You can build a cabin in the middle of nowhere, with no running water, no electricity, no connection to society, and live like a hermit. The state essentially says, yeah, if you want to fight bears for your salmon, go for it. But in many suburban neighborhoods across America, you can get fined for letting your grass grow too tall. Some homeowners associations will literally fine you for having the wrong color mailbox, but Alaska lets you disappear into the wilderness with zero infrastructure. In Oregon and Washington, it's legal to pump your own gas. Wait, that doesn't sound weird? Well, it is, because in New Jersey, it's illegal to pump your own gas. You have to have an attendant do it for you. Apparently, New Jersey doesn't trust its residents with basic tasks, but they can vote for president. The logic is just chef's kiss perfect. You can operate a 2-ton vehicle at high speeds, but squeezing a gas pump trigger, that requires a professional. Here's a weird one about personal expression. In many states, it's completely legal to change your name to almost anything you want. Want to be called Optimus Prime? Go for it. Want numbers in your name? Some states allow it. But try to give your kid certain names at birth, and suddenly the government has opinions. You can't name your baby a curse word in some places, but you can legally change your own name to one later. Make it make sense. In several states, it's legal to homestead on public land. You can literally claim a piece of government property, live on it, improve it, and eventually own it. This is based on old frontier laws that are still technically active. The requirements vary, but in some places, if you continuously use and improve public land for long enough, you can file for ownership. But try to sleep on a park bench in most cities, and you'll be arrested for vagrancy. Let's talk about gambling, because the rules here are bonkers. In Nevada, gambling is legal everywhere. Slot machines in grocery stores, casinos on every corner, sports betting, poker rooms, the whole thing. You can walk into a gas station and drop your paycheck on video poker while buying a soda. But drive a few hours to Utah, and all gambling is completely illegal. Not just casinos, everything. No lottery, no bingo at church, nothing. These states share a border, but their laws couldn't be more different. In many states, daily fantasy sports are legal and considered games of skill rather than gambling. But poker, which is absolutely a game of skill, is heavily regulated or banned. You can bet thousands on whether a running back will score a touchdown, but playing cards for money in your basement, that might be illegal. The mental gymnastics required to make this make sense is Olympic level. And here's a fun gambling loophole. In some states, social gambling is legal. That means you can play poker with friends for money as long as nobody takes a cut. But the second someone hosts and takes a percentage, it becomes illegal gambling. So the act of playing cards for money is fine, but the location taking a fee makes it a crime. You and your buddies can play $500 buy-in poker in someone's garage legally, but a business can't host the same game. In Louisiana, video poker machines are legal in bars and truck stops. You can be drinking beer and gambling on machines that pay out cash, and it's completely fine. But online poker? That's been a legal nightmare for years. You can gamble on a machine in a dive bar, but doing the exact same thing on your phone at home might be illegal depending on the year and current enforcement. Now let's get into some really specific weird stuff. In several states, it's legal to own and operate a flamethrower. Not a blowtorch, a military-grade flamethrower. You can buy one online, and in most places, there are zero regulations. The same country that regulates lawn darts because they're too dangerous is cool with you owning a device that shoots fire 30 feet. You need a license to fish, but a flamethrower? Just add to cart and check out. In Kentucky, it's legal to marry someone as young as 17 with parental consent, but you have to be 21 to buy alcohol. So you can make a lifelong commitment and legally enter into a binding contract, but you can't have champagne at your own wedding. Fantastic! You can sign a mortgage, join the military, and get married, but a beer? Too dangerous. In some states, there's no law against cannibalism. Now, before you panic, you obviously can't murder someone to eat them. That's very illegal. But if someone consents to let you eat their body parts, there's no specific law against the act of consuming human flesh in certain jurisdictions. It would fall under other laws like abuse of a corpse or improper disposal of human remains, but the act itself isn't explicitly illegal everywhere. Sleep tight. In Idaho, it's legal to give your kid a gun. No minimum age. A parent can hand their 5-year-old a rifle, and as long as the parent is supervising, it's completely legal. The same state requires you to be 16 to drive a car with supervision, but a firearm. No age limit specified. Now, most parents aren't giving toddlers guns, but legally they could. Let's talk about business and commerce laws. In many states, it's completely legal to start an LLC or corporation with almost no oversight. You can create a business entity, shield yourself from liability, and operate with minimal regulation in some industries. But try to braid hair for money without a cosmetology license, and you'll need hundreds of hours of training and thousands of dollars in fees. Because apparently braiding hair is more dangerous than running a corporation. Some states require 1,500 hours of training to legally braid hair, but you can start a business consulting company with zero qualifications. In some states, it's legal to operate a food truck with fewer regulations than a brick-and-mortar restaurant. You can sell food from a vehicle with basic permits, but if you want to open a restaurant, you'll need to jump through countless hoops, pass multiple inspections, and possibly wait months for approval. Both serve food to the public, but one requires you to have wheels, apparently. The food truck can park in different locations every day with different water sources and power setups, but that's somehow less regulated than a permanent building. In Delaware, it's legal to create anonymous shell companies. You can register a business without disclosing who actually owns it. This is why so many companies are incorporated in Delaware even though they operate elsewhere. You can hide who's really running a company, making it nearly impossible to trace ownership. But try to open a bank account without showing 3 forms of ID, and good luck. Here's a weird privacy one. In many states, it's legal to record conversations without the other person knowing, as long as one party consents. That party can be you. So you can secretly record pretty much any conversation you're part of, and it's completely legal. But in 2-party consent states like California, everyone needs to know they're being recorded. Cross a state border during a phone call and you might accidentally commit a felony. You could be having a legal conversation in Nevada, drive into California while still talking, and suddenly the recording becomes illegal. In several states, it's legal for your employer to ask for your social media passwords as a condition of employment. They can demand access to your private accounts, read your messages, see your photos, everything. But there are also states that have banned this practice specifically because it was becoming common. So whether your boss can force you to hand over your Instagram login depends entirely on which state you work in. Let's talk about some nature and environmental laws. In most states, it's legal to cut down trees on your own property without permission. Want to chop down a 100-year-old oak? Your property, your choice. But in some cities and towns, there are tree protection ordinances that make this illegal without permits. So whether you can remove a tree depends on what side of an imaginary line you live on. Some places will fine you thousands of dollars for cutting down a tree without permission, even on your own land. In several states, it's legal to keep wild animals as pets with the right permits. Kangaroos, sloths, even primates in some cases. The exotic pet trade is massive and largely legal. You can own a monkey in some states with the right paperwork. But try to release a non-native fish into a local pond, and you've just committed an environmental crime that could result in serious fines. In many rural areas, it's legal to burn trash on your property. Plastic, chemicals, whatever. Just light it up and send those toxins into the air everyone breathes. But in cities, you can't even have a small bonfire without permits and regulations. You need government approval to burn some sticks in your backyard. But rural folks can literally burn their garbage, and that's fine. In some states, it's legal to trap and relocate wild animals from your property. Got raccoons in your attic? Trap them and drive them somewhere else to release them. But in other states, this is illegal because you're just making the animal someone else's problem. And in some places, you can trap them, but you're required to kill them humanely on site rather than relocate them. So depending on where you live, the same raccoon problem has completely different legal solutions. In Montana, it's legal to kill an animal that's threatening your livestock, even if it's a protected species in some cases. A wolf eating your cattle. You might be able to shoot it under certain circumstances. But in other states, killing any protected animal, even in defense of property, is a serious crime. The same action is either legal self-defense or a federal crime depending on location. Here's a water rights one that's crazy. In some western states, it's illegal to divert a stream that runs through your property because of historic water rights. Someone downstream has legal rights to that water, even though it's flowing through your land. But you can pump groundwater from under your property in most places with few restrictions. So surface water is heavily regulated, but underground water that's part of the same system? Pump away. Let's talk about drugs and substances, because this is where things get really inconsistent. Marijuana is legal for recreational use in many states now. You can walk into a store, buy weed, and smoke it legally. But it's still federally illegal, which means you can't transport it across state lines, even between 2 legal states. So you can buy it in Colorado, but if you drive to New Mexico with it, you're committing a federal crime, even though it's also legal in New Mexico. The logic is beautiful. In some states, psilocybin mushrooms have been decriminalized or even legalized for therapeutic use. Oregon has legal psilocybin therapy centers. But drive to Idaho with mushrooms, and you're looking at serious felony charges. These states are neighbors, but one treats it as medicine and the other as a serious crime. Kratom is legal in most states. You can buy it at gas stations and smoke shops. It's a plant that has effects similar to opioids, and it's barely regulated in most places. But in states like Alabama and Wisconsin, it's completely illegal. The same substance is sold openly in one state and will get you arrested in another. In New Hampshire, you can buy fireworks that are illegal to use in New Hampshire. Seriously, they'll sell you massive professional-grade fireworks, but using them in the state is illegal. The assumption is you're taking them out of state, so you can legally buy something that's illegal to use where you bought it. The stores literally make you sign a form saying you'll use them elsewhere. Let's get into some technology and communication laws. In several states, it's legal to use a radar detector in your car. These devices tell you when police are using speed detection equipment. You can actively avoid speed traps, and it's completely legal. But in Virginia, having a radar detector is illegal. The device itself is a crime, not the speeding. So a tool that helps you follow the law by alerting you to enforcement is illegal in some places. In many states, it's legal to record video in public spaces without anyone's permission. You can film strangers, businesses, even police officers, and it's protected activity. But some places have restrictions on recording in certain locations or situations. And if you're recording audio too, suddenly different laws apply because of wiretapping statutes. It's legal in most places to use a VPN to hide your internet activity from your service provider. You can encrypt your traffic and make it nearly impossible to track what you're doing online. But using those same tools to access content that's geographically restricted might violate terms of service agreements. So the tool is legal, but some uses of it exist in gray areas. In some jurisdictions, it's legal for police to create fake social media accounts to investigate crimes. They can pretend to be someone else, lie about their identity, and gather evidence. But if you create a fake account to catfish someone, that might be illegal under identity fraud laws. The same action is legal for authorities but criminal for citizens. But here's the absolute craziest part that ties all of this together. Every single one of these laws exists in the same country. America claims to be united. But we've got 50 different sets of rules, thousands of counties with their own regulations, and countless cities with their own ordinances. You can literally drive 2 hours and go from a place where something is completely legal to a place where that same action will land you in jail. The law isn't about logic or consistency. It's about history, politics, lobbying, and sometimes just pure randomness. That's why you can own a tiger but not a ferret in some places. That's why you can marry your cousin but can't collect rainwater. That's why you can carry a sword but need a license to cut hair. And here's what nobody tells you about these freaky laws. Most of them will never be changed because changing laws is hard, expensive, and politically complicated. It's easier to just leave weird stuff on the books and hope nobody notices. That's why there are still laws about hitching posts for horses and regulations about telegraph lines. So what have we learned today? America's legal system is a beautiful disaster of contradictions, historical accidents, and decisions made by people who probably weren't thinking about the long-term consequences. You can do things that sound absolutely insane in one state while those same actions are serious crimes in another. The lesson here isn't that laws are bad. We need laws. But maybe, just maybe, we should occasionally review the rules we're all supposed to follow and ask, does this actually make sense? Because right now, you can own a flamethrower but get arrested for having certain plants. You can marry your cousin but not sell lemonade without a permit. You can drive with open alcohol containers but can't pump your own gas. America is wild, the laws are wilder, and honestly, it's amazing any of us make it through the day without accidentally committing some obscure violation that's been on the books since 1872. Subscribe if you want more weird facts that'll make you question everything.